Okay, today we're looking at Chapter 8, Topic 2, Day 3, Adding and Subtracting Rational Expressions. Most of these problems will have not only addition and subtraction, but also division. This first problem, however, does not. The main idea of this first problem is to make sure you write everything in standard form, because 2 minus x is not standard form, that should be negative x plus 2. But the second fraction is in standard form. Once you write it in standard form here, you can see, well, okay, this denominator can be factored. I can factor a negative 1 out of that to get x minus 2. And then over here, I already have x minus 2. So when we're looking for the LCD, the factors they have in common are x minus 2. The factor that they don't have in common is a negative 1. So I need to make sure that both of them have a denominator of this. The second fraction I would have to multiply by negative 1 to get that denominator. So I'd have 3x over negative 1x minus 2 plus negative 5 over negative 1x minus 2. I can combine these into a single fraction, 3x plus negative 5 or 3x minus 5 over negative 1x minus 2. Of course, I would check to see, can the numerator be factored so that I can cancel with any of the factors in the denominator, and the answer is no, it cannot be factored. So I'll just put everything in standard form. Distribute here to put it in standard form, negative x plus 2, and this is the simplified expression for number 1, 3x minus 5 over negative x plus 2. Now number 2, we have three things we have to do here because we have addition in the numerator, subtraction in the denominator, and then we have division. So we're going to treat this as three separate problems. This is a problem, that's an addition problem. This is a problem, this is a subtraction problem. When we have those two simplified, then we can divide them. Okay, so let's start with the numerator here. 1 over a plus 1 over b. The LCD here would be AB. This already has a factor of A, this has a factor of B. They don't have anything in common, so we would just have A times B. To get that, we would multiply the second fraction by B. We would multiply the first fraction by B, and then multiply the second fraction by A. That gives us B over AB plus A over AB, which is A plus B over AB. Now we do A plus B instead of B plus A to keep it in standard form. So this is simplified for the numerator. Let's look at the denominator now, which is 1 over b minus 1 over 1. Okay, that's just 1, so it's 1 over 1. The LCD here would just be b, because this has a factor of 1, this has a factor of b. So the first fraction can stay the same, 1 over b already has a denominator of b. The second fraction, we'd have to multiply by b. So minus b over b. So we can put this all over b. Once again, we want standard form, so the negative b will come first and then plus 1. And this is our denominator here. So what we're actually looking at here now is a division problem. Whoops. We're actually looking at a division problem here, which is a plus b over ab, that's the numerator, divided by negative b plus 1 over b. That's the denominator. And we know to do division, we just switch it to multiplication. So change the sign to multiplication, switch the numerator and denominator. We know how to do multiplication. We just cancel any factors that they have in common. So they have a b as a factor in common. And that's all that they have in common. So what I have left in the numerator is a plus b as a factor. What I have in the denominator is a, but I also have negative b plus 1. So I will distribute that to put it in standard form. So a times negative b, so that's negative ab. A times 1, that's a. So this is the simplified form for number 2. Okay, our goal is to get it as a single fraction, and we now have this as a single fraction. Number 3, we have numerator is a problem, c over d minus d over c. Denominator is a problem, d over c plus 2, and then once we have both of those simplified, we can divide them. Start with the numerator. C over d minus d over c has an LCD of CD, because the factors they have in common, they don't have any. So factors that they don't have in common are c and d. We would multiply the first by c and the second by d. So we get c squared over cd minus d squared over cd. Combine that into a single fraction over cd, we get c squared minus d squared. Now, since we'll be doing multiplication later, we do want to simplify, we do want to factor that. The numerator, c squared minus d squared, that can factor into c plus d, c minus d, because it's a difference of 2 squares. Okay, so this is the factored form of the numerator. Moving to the denominator, d over c plus 2 over 1 essentially, the LCD here would be just c. So the first fraction can stay the same because it already has a denominator of c. Second fraction, we would have to multiply by c. So this becomes 2c over c. Combine that into a single fraction, 2c plus d over c, standard form. So that would be our denominator. So what we have now is we have this, c plus d, c minus over c plus d times c minus d over cd, and then divided by this, which is my denominator, 2c plus d, 2c plus d over c. So I can change this to a multiplication problem by switching the numerator and denominator of the second fraction. It becomes c over 2c plus d. Everything's already factored here, so I can start canceling out factors. The only factor that occurs is c. Okay, so what I have left in the numerator, c plus d, c minus d. What I have in the denominator, I have d as a factor, I have 2c plus d as a factor. Multiply everything together. Well, I already know that this multiplies to c squared minus d squared. Okay, I already did that. I factored it, so I know what it multiplies to. Distribute this d out. I get 2cd plus d squared. And this would be the answer to number 3. This is the simplified. Once I do everything I'm supposed to, this is what I get. C squared minus d squared over 2cd plus d squared. And then our last example, number 4, I have 2 over a minus 1 plus 3 over a minus 4 divided by 6 over a squared minus 5a plus 4. Once again, we'll look at this as 3 problems, except there's nothing to do with the denominator. It's already simplified, so all I have to do is simplify the numerator here. So I have 2 over a minus 1 plus 3 over a minus 4. So the LCD here, they don't have any factors in common. The only factor the first one has is a minus 1. And the only factor the second one has is a minus 4. So the LCD is a minus 1, a minus 4. So to get that with the first fraction, I would have to multiply by a minus 4. To get that with the second fraction, I'd have to multiply by a minus 1. So I distribute here. We got 2a minus 8 over a minus 4a minus 1 plus 3a minus 3 distribute over a minus 4a minus 1. Combine these into a single fraction, 2a minus 8 plus 3a minus 3 over a minus 4a minus 1. Combine the like terms, 2a and 3a is 5a, negative 8, negative 3 is negative 11, over a minus 4a minus 1. Since we're going to be dividing, we do want to try to factor this, but it's already factored. Numerator cannot be factored. Denominator cannot be factored. So this is our numerator. So what we're looking at is this. Divided by our denominator, which is 6 over a squared minus 5a plus 4. Which, if we turn this into a multiplication problem, we have 5a minus 11, a minus 4a minus 1, times a squared minus 5a plus 4 over 6. Okay, so now we factor everything that can be factored. So this first one's already factored. We just need to factor the second one. A squared minus 5a plus 4, that factors into a minus 4 and a minus 1. And 6 just factors into 3 times 2. Cancel factors that they have in common. So a minus 4, a minus 1. So all we're left with, 5a minus 11 in the numerator and 6 in the denominator. So this is our simplified form for number 4. All right, and here are the homework problems for this topic.